Investigation on the floor of the Black Sea. A saltwater sea connected by the Mediterranean Sea by a remote channel. Remote. Okay, so this is talking about, I'm not sure where the Black Sea is, but I guess it's talking about somewhere. It has revealed deposits of freshwater shells dating from 15. This is an evaluate question. 1550 BC. So 5,500 years BC before Christ on an ancient shoreline. So these shells once existed. These shells once existed on the shoreline 1,500 years ago. They turned up in the Black Sea. It's the Black Sea. Yeah? The shoreline lies 500 below the Black Sea. Black Sea's current level. Okay, so I guess that means ancient shoreline, yeah. And the sediment just above it, above I guess above the ancient shoreline. This is the it is referring to, I think. I think the it is referring to ancient shoreline. I think so. The sediment just above it contains remains only of saltwater creatures. Okay. So what? I mean, I guess that proves that things, I guess it's always been a saltwater sea. And you have saltwater creatures. I'm not sure where are we going with this. Scientists Scientists hypothesize that about 1550 before seawater from the Mediterranean So it's connected in the Mediterranean Sea, and the Mediterranean Sea, I suppose, has salt water. What would be helpful if I were to just pre-think? So it's saying that that is a bit of a stretch. If you in the Blackwater Sea, you see old shells that were I'm not that were once existent on ancient Blackwater Sea shoreline. Above this Blackwater Sea shoreline, now ancient, you also found seawater creatures, saltwater. So the salt water came from the Mediterranean. Well, I guess some things would be some things. Well, was there a connection 1500 years ago between Black Sea and Mediterranean Sea? Were these shells, creatures, also found on the Mediterranean Sea side of things? Because you have to, those two are the premises. Conclusion is salt water. Salt water came from the Mediterranean Sea. So I have to be able to connect these two parts. What would be help in evaluating, just because you see old shells that were once existent on an ancient Blackwater Sea shoreline, or Black Sea, sorry, Black Sea. Above this Black Sea shoreline, you also found saltwater creatures. Thus, you can conclude that the came from Mediterranean. I guess the only way to think about it is there some kind of connection or something? That's what I'm actually thinking in my mind. Let's see whether the body of whose shoreline. That's a completely irrelevant. Whether the body of the whose shore, whether the body of the fresh water. How does fresh water come into here? Oh yeah. Okay, I didn't even notice this. I didn't even notice this fresh water. Okay, so it's a freshwater shell. Saltwater creatures. Okay, so the shells are from freshwater, and I don't know if is the Mediterranean freshwater. I'm not sure. Is this freshwater? Sure. So whether the body of freshwater whose shoreline. So sure. So are you saying on an ancient shoreline, the shoreline lies? So are you saying that the Black Sea at one time, is this suggesting that the Black Sea at one time was freshwater sea? Yeah, I think that's what I think that's what it boils down to. I think you need to be able to decipher that. And the sediment just above the freshwater shoreline contains salt water. Yeah, so the salt seawater. Yeah, okay, so that kind of makes whether the body of fresh water, whether the freshwater whose shoreline was less than 500. Whether the body of fresh water whose shoreline. I don't understand. The shoreline lies 500 feet below. I think that's freshwater shoreline. I'm not European, so I don't know. The shoreline lies 500 feet below the Black Sea water. the shoreline below the Black Sea's current level. Whether the body of fresh water whose shoreline was uncovered was less than 500 feet deep. Yeah. So are you saying that there's what do you mean by was uncovered? You're telling me in here that the shoreline this shoreline how tough is this? The shoreline on an ancient shoreline. You're telling me that it's an ancient shoreline. Whether the body of fresh water whose shoreline was uncovered was less. I don't understand. Aren't you already telling me that the shoreline lies 500 feet below? This, I don't understand. Isn't this mentioned, what is mentioned in the yellow, directly opposite to the red? These seem to be counter, they seem to be counter to me. That's why, I don't know. I think that's why it's wrong. Whether the body whose shoreline was. Yeah, the shoreline lies 500 feet below. I'm not sure what this is really saying. I don't even think that's right. Whether the remains of containing the layer lie just above the. I like this, whether the remains would be different. Because if the remains are the same, whether the remains are the same, that means it was a. Remains are not the same. So that if remains not the same, if remains are the same. I think the strength, no, this doesn't, if remains are the same, it implies it may have happened. And yeah, I'm not, maybe I'm not able to explain it why, but I don't think this explains it. Because if it's the same, how does that prove that the overflowing took place into the Black Sea basin? I mean, it did take place in the past, but that means this maybe the Black Sea pushed it back into the Mediterranean. See? Maybe it has stayed the same over 500 years, but it doesn't prove or strengthen the argument. I would select whether yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Because maybe the freshwater shells have been used as tools by our ancestors, and they were thrown into the Black Sea because they were, yeah. I would personally select C and just move on. I think this is a tough question, but I would select C because if they were used as tools for any, no. If they were used as tools, how does that prove that it didn't happen? I guess no. I mean, even if it were used as tools, maybe they were used as tools, and maybe people were living on the Mediterranean seaside, on the Mediterranean side, and they have flushed into the Black Sea. Yeah, I'm not skeptical. Whether there are traces of less. Whether there are traces of an ancient shoreline of the Black Sea that lies significantly less. If there are traces, if there are not, I think that there are traces. I think it proves that it continues to take, it may not have been a one-time incident. But if there are no traces, I don't think. I see. Whether there. If there are traces, maybe it happened, maybe the overflowing happened more than once. If there are no traces, I think it strengthens that it happened 1500 years ago. Sorry, 5,500 BC years ago. But very light strength enough. Aha, it has to be whether the remains of the saltwater creatures found in the sediment resemble the remains of the Mediterranean. Yeah, I would love to select. It's clearly E. I would select E. Yeah, let's see.